How you been? All right, let's start talking about cards. Discerning financier. I think I can financier. I think I can figure that out. All right, so we're talking about Wilds of Eldraine cards. Only stuff that has been officially previewed. I have two sections here. We have all the cards that are in English, and then we're going to talk about the cards that were not that were printed in non-English that required me to translate it before we uploaded it here. Yeah, we're going to be talking about these cards to the context of Gladiator, Canadian Highlander, and Commander, and sometimes I'll talk about them just because they're cool. Or because if I didn't talk about them, people would ask me to talk about them. Discerning Financier, 2 and a white for a 2/3 human noble. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. 2 and a white, choose another player. That player gains control of target treasure you control. You draw a card. So I think this card is not good enough for Canlander or Gladiator play. I don't hate this card for Commander because you're white. Opponent's going to have more cards than you. Getting a treasure each turn is nice. And then being able to just like pass that treasure on to occasionally draw a card is also pretty nice. There are cards as well that in white that add treasure, right? Like Smothering Tithe, which, you know, do you really need to play Smothering Tithe? That's probably a different question altogether. What is Smuggler's Share do it as well? Smuggler's Share, monologue tax, you draw a card, right? And oh, they make a treasure. Monologue tax, you got a bunch of stuff. Yeah, 3 is a lot for an activation, but that's okay. More people should be playing mana sinks in their commander decks anyways. 3's not that bad if a game goes long, and you're going to really wish that you had something like this. Like, this is a card that can come down early, can help ramp you up, that can create artifacts, which is pretty important for a lot of decks. And then just lets you cash in on drawing cards and lets you work with other people at the table, which is really underrated. I hate using the word politics to describe this kind of gameplay because politics has a lot of negative associations with it in Commander. But there's anytime you have an ability that can benefit one player, a player that's other than you, you can use that to incentivize other players to take game actions that won't like negatively impact you, or that will it might benefit them, but ultimately it benefits the table as a whole. Like, it's these kind of abilities are great. They're fun. They let you take advantage of like stuff that's unique to Commander, right? In that it's not constantly cutthroat play to win, and that you're playing with multiple people. You can just help people out. If you could be like, hey, I can give you a treasure if you are able to clear that, right? Like, that's great. You get to make those kind of calls, and that kind of play is really powerful because it lets you clear an objective while not dedicating any resources to do so. Like, you are putting an opponent down cards to accomplish a goal rather than using your cards to accomplish a goal, which is going to become more relevant if you get later in a game to when it's just 1v1. If you watch me play a lot of Commander on Commander streams or pre-recorded videos, I do this a lot. I tend to play in a way that helps, like, not in a like reactive player sort of way, because that just can be a little boring, and that's really how you win Commander, is be the last person to fire off your cards. I mean, that's just like a magicism, but it's especially true for Commander. But like doing a bit of that combined with like, hey, I will help you if you clear this, it often gets you down to 1v1, and then in 1v1 you can just outplay your opponent, you know? Or then because you're up cards, you can outmuscle your opponent. So yeah, I like this card a lot. I think it plays into some pretty interesting play patterns in Commander, and it provides a mana sink and some additional juice for decks that, you know, want this. Moz and Golfer, welcome back for the 21st month. How you doing? How you been? I'm going to pay you in exchange for a good and or service. Okay. What about a good service? How come I can't get good service in here? Am I right? Okay. Yeah, bye everybody. Expelle the Interlopers. 2 and 2 white for a sorcery. You choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. Not for Gladiator, not for Highlander, obviously. But this is a cool Wrath. Again, when you're building a commander deck, I like to include at least 2 board wipes or 2.5 board wipes. And the board wipes that you play... Hold on, my cat's yelling at me again. Come in. Come on. Come in. I'm trying to get my cat to come in so I can close the door when she comes in so there's no outside noise. Yeah. Wraths like this are pretty neat. In that they let you control what you're blowing up and let you or other players keep utility creatures, which is another part of the whole, like, take game actions that might benefit other players, because that'll come back to help you, right? Like, you could cast this to just kill everything if you want. You can cast this to just save your stuff. You can cast this to save your stuff and save other players' creatures as a sign of, I just need to get this off the table. I'm not here to ruin everybody's day, because that goes a long way. So yeah, another cool 5-mana Wrath to maybe tech into your decks. In Garruk's Wake, 7 black sorcery, destroy all creatures and planeswalkers your opponents control. I think that's... yeah. Grasp of Fate. What? What do you mean close enough? Destroy all creatures and planeswalkers you don't control, or your opponents control. That's the same thing. Didn't I say 7 black? Pretty sure I literally said this card as a sorcery. What do you mean close enough? Didn't I just say this card? That's like me, like, the phrasing is different. Yeah, but you know what I mean. If I said if somebody's like lightning bolt and I go like 3 damage to whatever and you go close enough, it's like, no, fucking, that's what it is. Grasp of Fate. 1 white for an enchantment. Oh, you're trying to get up. 1 white for an enchantment. This is a part of the Enchanting Tales. Where am I going to put these Pokemon cards? I got a Mulder on my desk now. When Grasp of Fate ETBs, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves play. It's just another Banishing Light. It's got additional text for multiplayer, but we don't play multiplayer. It's pretty good in Two-Headed Giant. Yeah, just nice to have another Banishing Light. I'll take as many of these cards as they'll throw to me. Please and thank you. Forx and Unlife. This is another Enchanting Tales card. 2 and a white enchantment. You don't lose the game for having 0 less life. As long as you have 0 less life, all damage is dealt to you as though its source had Infect. And it combos with Solemnity, which we already have on Arena. So now you can build just like the old school Enchantress control with combo kill and get Solemnity and Phyrexian Unlife. which is great. Combine Sterling Grove or Greater Oromancy, and then the only thing you have to worry about is Farewell. And then you can even tech the Nevermore. Yeah, this is a wild one. How does this card work versus an Alpha Strike? It works the exact way you would want it to. If I'm at 1 and I get attacked for 20, I'm going to go to -19 and not die. And then all my opponent's damage from there on will have effect. If my opponent, if I'm at 1 and my opponent attacks with a 1/1 first striker and a 10/10, then I'm dead. Because I take 1, then I go to 0, and then the regular damage is going to be dealt as infect and kill me. Cool? Cool. Yeah, kind of a shocker to see this card. But cool card. I mean, is it really that much of a shocker considering we're getting Blood Moon? Return Triumphant. 1 and a white for a sorcery. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to play. Then you create a Young Hero Role token attached to it. So again, this is the Enchanted Creature has whenever this creature attacks, if its toughness is 3 or less, put a 1/1 counter on it. And then if there's another role, you can put this into the graveyard. So speaking of Enchantress, I've been thinking about this kind of card in 2 different spots. One, we also have Recommission. Recommission is a very powerful Magic card. Hitting the artifact is neat for certain decks and certain formats, but getting back the 3-mana creature is great, especially for powerful ETBs. Triumphant return a card. I think so. Oh, it's not Triumphant. There's something like that. So there's a deck, and this is why I haven't actually done this, the Wheeler's Workshop for you, AMC, because specifically I'm thinking about this deck of, it's effectively Orzhov Ruin Your Evening in Gladiator. So it's like Orzhov, Soul Sisters, but with all of the, disruptive elements. And you play cards like this to just rebuy over and over again your Skyclave Apparition, or get your Luris back to get back your Benevolent Bodyguard, that kind of thing. Redundancy for this kind of effect in that kind of deck is really neat. The Young Hero Roll is whatever. It's nice in that deck, but it's not the end of the world. Where the Young Hero Roll does pop up is I'm thinking about these cards in Enchantress, because think about it. What deck also just has a bunch of creatures that are 3 mana or less that you need to have into play to do anything? And if they die, you kind of just want to bring them back. Enchantress. So I think this is kind of cute. Like I would consider trying an Enchantress build with these effects to get back, your Sithis, your Sanctum Weaver. Obviously, getting back Setessan Champion is pretty funny. There's a bunch of, Satyr Enchanter, a bunch of stuff. Commander Zelgo D, welcome back for the 26th month. How you doing? How you been? Glad to have you. Good to see you. 26 months. We got Jacuzzi on commission last night on Friday Night Paper Fight. I didn't even get to talk about that. If you didn't watch the Friday Night Paper Fight last night, it was Canadian Highlander. And I brought Jacuzzi on commission, which we talked about. I mean, over the past 4 years, we talked about it a bit. I'll link it in chat. I haven't played that deck for several years, and I don't know if I built or piloted this optimally, but the deck felt powerful. It felt shockingly resilient at times. And I think with some more work, I might actually bring this to like a Monday night. Yeah, this was sick. And I think there are other versions of this deck to explore. Like 5 color version. There's a Jund version that I want to try. Yeah, the deck is based around gaining a bunch of life and then paying a bunch of life and then gaining a bunch of life. And Alex had a Rampaging Ferocidon in play, and I couldn't do that, and I still won at 1 life. That felt good. That felt like the, well, I mean, for the sake of the camera, and also like obviously when you combo off against people, you kind of have to lie about like how you got there. So I was like, oh, I think I drew pretty well or whatever. It's like, but that was, I think I played the fuck out of that game, or at least that last turn. Cosmic Rebirth. Yeah, Cosmic Rebirth fills a very similar role. I think you could likely play all of those because really all you want is just enchantresses plus enchantments. Would I play Erete of the Charmed Apple in the Curse Pox list? I don't believe so. I think I saw your comment in the chat last night. Each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can attack you or a planeswalker. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and gains X where X is the number of auras you control. No, it's just unnecessary. It dies to all your things. Like, you want to play as few creatures as possible. And if you look at that list, which, funny enough, that list is a... Surge's list is a Wheeler's Workshop. I think it was a Wheeler's Workshop for AMC. Am I right? Wheeler's Workshop. Yeah. This one. The Orzhov Cursepox Super Friends. Surge was like, I need something that's kind of gross and like stacksy. I'm like, well, I have this you can play. I think we made a couple of changes to it, like adding the One Ring and some other stuff. But yeah, you need like, I think we cut Sister Repentia. Triumph should probably be cut. The idea was that all your creatures could die and that'd be okay. Oh, I already went to the next one. Great. Shrouded Shepherd. 1 and a white for a 2/2 Spirit Warrior. When Shrouded Shepherd enters the battlefield, target creature you can control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then Cleave Shadows. 1 and a black sorcery. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. This card's a lot better than it looks, I think. Like 2 mana, 2/2 that ETBs and buffs something for +2/+2 is shockingly good. Like that. This seems a little goofy, but it's just this. It's just the front half is Resilient Kenra. Kinda, right? And then the adventure side can clear up mana dorks. It can clear up pesky Bitter Blossom tokens or chump blockers. You could do it post-combat. You could do it pre-combat to make sure your opponent doesn't have any great blocks. Like, yeah, this card would have been busted in early Gladiator. Like, if this card came out with actual Eldraine, OG Eldraine, it would have game over, man. Game over. I think this card, I'd be interested in testing this card though, because it's one of those ones where it looks kind of dorky, but it does so much on a single card, and can be cast off Lurrus. Spellbook Vendor. 1 and a blue for a 2/2 Vigilance. It's a human. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can pay a generic. And when you do, you create a Sorcerer Role token attached to target creature you control. So that's Enchanted Creature gets +1/+1 when this creature attacks Scry. I really like this card. I'm going to give it a shot in white-based aggressive decks. It's not Luminarch Aspirant, exactly. It's not Siege Veteran, exactly. But this has a couple of extra strengths. Because, one, it's a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance, which is a more relevant body than Spellbook Vendor. This goes wide. Like, Luminarch Aspirant can also go wide. You have some flexibility on where these go, but like getting to create additional permanents that let you scry 1 is pretty hot, right? Like, we've seen how annoying... Is this your name? We've seen how annoying, like, this card can be when it's just scrying over and over again. I mean, Guardian New Benelli obviously can protect itself, but repeatedly scrying over and over again is you know, kind of hot. This isn't the kind of card that is going to completely take over a game the same way that Luminarch Aspirin can do single-handedly. But I think it's worth playing because it's redundancy on this style of effect. The body itself, like, you know, 3/3 Vigilance, Scry 1 is kind of hot. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. It's a 2-drop too, right? Like, White Weenie decks or White X decks just already, they glut out on 3-drops too much. And it's, I'd be interested in seeing more of these. I might even try this in Highlander, to be honest. I'm not super excited about this in an enchantment-based deck, but I could see it. I might try this in humans, honestly, mono white humans. I'll give it a shot. Like, cards that scale like this and that invest in your future are pretty cool and good. So I'll give it a shot. The Princess Takes Flight. This card is really funny to me. I love the artwork on it. When I read it, I thought it was fucked. And then I read the final line of text. So it's an enchantment and it's a saga. 2 and a white. ETB, exile up to 1 target creature. Chapter 2, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. And then chapter 3, you return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So I read the first 2 and was just like, Jesus Christ. And then I read the third one. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I guess. But then I read it again and went, wait a minute. We just exiled our creature and then we sacrifice this to our enigmatic incarnation or our doom foretold, or we blink it or something, anything. And then it's just permanently gone. So I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to give this a shot in, I was going to say shout out. I'm going to give this a shout out. I'm going to give this a shot in Incarnation. I'm going to give it a shot. What the fuck? I'm going to give it a shot in Incarnation. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to give this a go. Virtue of Loyalty. 3 white for an enchantment. It's got an adventure side as well. The enchantment says at the beginning of your end step, you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Untap those creatures. And then there's Ardenvale Fealty. 1 and a white instant. Make a 2/2 knight token with Vigilance. So this card's kind of hot. This card's pretty hot. I don't know how much I like it outside of green white, because 5 mana, a 5 mana non-creature spell is kind of poo-poo. A 5 mana spell that doesn't immediately do something is kind of poo-poo, right? Like, you can cast this and then go to end step and have something, which is neat. But, you know, it's not the like, oh, you played a Glorybringer, huh? All right, here we go. 5 mana, play this thing to deal with it. It's like, no, you're like, oh, play this, go to end step, do a thing. But that's not the worst, right? Like, this is each end step is, or sorry, beginning of your end step on each creature and untap them means you can get a little aggressive, play this, and then like have some stuff to untap. But I think you should really see this as 2 mana 2/2 instant token generator, because that's you're for sure casting that part. And is that necessarily what you want to do? Like in Magic, in Gladiator? I don't know. It's a powerful card. Both sides are like reasonable. And then coming together as a whole is what would potentially push this higher. So yeah, I'm a little conflicted. Maybe in like green white tokens. Yeah, I'm gonna put a rain check on this one. A rain check. I mean, a 2/2 for 2 with flash and vigilance is like fine. It feels wild to say that. But yeah, it. I'll put a rain check on this one. This is in my keep an eye on this, but not like pop off. I'm not popping off about it or anything. Werewolf's Bodyguard. 1 white for an elf fox knight with flash. It's a 2/2. When Werewolf's Bodyguard enters the battlefield, you exile up to 1 other target non-fox creature until Werewolf's Bodyguard leaves the battlefield. And then you can pay 1 and a white, sacrifice Werewolf's Bodyguard, you gain 2 life. That's very funny to me. Just like this activated ability. But I like it for a couple of reasons. One, like I'm just going to talk about like the design on this card, is that they have they've stopped printing cards like this that let you target your own things, which is dreadful. I hate it so much. It's my hate's a strong word, but it's genuinely my least favorite design change in Magic in recent years. And I understand why they do it for a lot of cards. Obviously, there's like the misclicking on Arena, and it's can wind up asking some like new players can look at it and be like, why would I ever do this anyways? And like that could be a feel bad moment that the misclick causes someone to stop playing the game, or they just get frustrated and they turn off or whatever, right? But as like admittedly, I'm a pretty locked in player, so I'm gonna love the like, ooh, I can be tricksy and I can outplay my opponent and do this thing. But this is also just like a level up moment for me. Like I distinctly remember running into situations like this that kind of had me going like, why would I ever do this? It's like, oh, because then if they kill this, I can get it back. Like this lets me rebuy an ETB. This lets me protect a creature. That's really cool. And so, yeah, I like that they've brought back this mechanic, and they have contextualized this mechanic and this flexibility around it being a bodyguard. So just when you read the word of it, you're like, oh, it's a bodyguard. Well, what's a bodyguard do? It either is going to protect something from, harm or threats. And this can do that by like being like, hey, you get out of here. Or it could be like, get behind me, and it gets you exile your own creature that gets tucked in under the bodyguard. Then they give you the sacrifice ability as a way of being like, oh, did you misclick? Well, if you really need to get this back, you can pay 2 and sack it. Like you can get rid of it. And that's great. It's just this added little ability that isn't huge, right? You don't get the tricks because it's not it's a singular exile ability. So it's not like you can flash in exile and on the stack sack it. But it's just a way, it's an out for players that misclick, or maybe they wanted, they're like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Or, I thought about I exiled this one, but now like I actually want them to have it in play or something. I'm just going to sack it. I think this is really well done as a way of like helping newer players, or at least more casual players, understand like that you can do this, and that it is not only like check out this, things dentists don't want you to know kind of shit, right? But it's also a thing where it's like, not only can you do this, but we expect you to do this. And that's reinforced with the flavor and the name. And here's a little ability that lets you know that like, yeah, do this, but also if you need a way out, you got a way out. I don't even need to talk about the strength of this card as a Magic card, because it's obviously quite good, right? It's 3 mana, 2/2 flash, exile your thing, protect your own thing and blink. But yeah, this card's a slam dunk to me. I love it so much. If we can get more stuff like this, it's not going to happen every single time, you know, like we're not going to be, this isn't the kind of like, you know, it happens to line up with kind of like a sub story that's going on in the flavor text and the artwork across the set. But so we're not gonna, I shouldn't expect this to happen for every single like card effect like this. The, you know, the Mana Wars, I'm not expecting Mana Wars to let us bounce anything, including our own just free roll nowadays. But it makes me hopeful if we see more of these at, you know, that we can see more of these, I guess, at rare or even uncommon. I don't think that, I mean, obviously at uncommon this is extremely pushed, but I would like to see more flexibility, because again, it's a level up moment for players, and it gets their brains going, and it's aspirational, right? Like, how cool does it feel when you realize, wait a minute, if I X on my own creature, they have to kill this, and then I get my creature back, and I get, like, I can protect my thing or get an enters the battlefield ability. Like, that's a huge moment for players. And I want to see them, I mean, my Magic, like, want is for more stuff that encourages new players to think outside of just what's on the card. There's currently a break now. There's an ad playing, which is great. Good timing on my end. I finally figured out how to fully control my ads so that, like, while this is playing, there's at least little breaks between the colors and stuff. So yeah, I think I want more water. Everyone asks where's Fox, but nobody asks how's Fox. How's Fox? I mean, pretty good. Faster than Falco, for sure. Heath, you ever play Melee? Maybe this is something cursed to ask people that are in the FGC. I'm hot garbage at that game, but I love it. Oh, FGC folks love... Really? That's not what I've seen. I used to follow a lot of Melee, and I played a bit. But I haven't touched it in a hot minute. Are there enough Fox to make a Fox deck? Yeah, absolutely. Here, while we wait for this ad to finish, we can look at the Foxes. They dislike Ultimate, but they like Melee? Oh. I threw a crab at Hungrybox. Creature type Fox. There are 35 Foxes in Magic. But there's also Patron of the Kitsune that you can play. Smash did not do much to make them like them. Smash community is actively loud and disrespectful. I mean, they're younger, right? Maybe that's changing. Maybe that has changed over the pandemic. Is that they've grown older on average. Ninetales, such a house. Ninetales is kind of hot. Although it has pretty low HP. It's got 80 based HP, right? Just talking about base set Ninetales. Base set Ninetales has 80 HP, so it can survive a Do the Wave with a plus power, which is kind of nice. Pretty good for a stage 1, to be honest, but its attacks are pretty bad. Anyways, let's start talking about other cards. Ooh. Asinine Antics. 2 blue for a sorcery. You may cast Asinine Antics as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it. For each creature your opponents control, create a cursed roll token attached to that creature. So it turns a bunch of your opponent's creatures into 1/1s. Right? They just become donkeys. For 6 mana, you can do it with flash. That's it. Not losing abilities is a bit of a pisser, but I understand that they have this cursed rule associated with it. Yeah. I don't think this is good enough. It's so expensive for what it does. And we have... Like, I would just rather have Cyclonic Rift. I mean, we do have Cyclonic Rift. I'm not going to play this in Big Blue. I wouldn't play this in Blue X control decks. One card, there's actually a card that is... I mean, it's not exactly the same, but there's a card where this slot, I think, is best filled... better, like, replaced. Gladiator is Mass Manipulation. I think I want to play this card in Big Blue again. As the, like, I'm going to get rid of these creatures effectively. I'm talking about Gladiator right now, but for Commander, this card is, like, fine as well. I don't know. If you're a Commander, if you're, like, a Bant Enchantress deck, you could play this in Commander because you still control the tokens, like the enchantment tokens. Not familiar with Gladiator. Oh, Heath. It's a 100-card singleton 1v1 on Arena with no commanders, no sideboards, and the only companions are the ones in your deck and the friends you make along the way. It's basically just like singleton. 1v1 singleton. Arena has that. You got to get a little tricky with it. But yeah, it's great. There's a very large community. Occasionally they throw it up as an official format on Arena. It's some good shit. Anywho, donkey card. Bitter Chill. 1 in a blue for an enchantment. It's an enchant creature, an aura. When Bitter Chill ETBs, you tap the enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. And when Bitter Chill is put into a graveyard from play, you can pay 1 generic. If you do, scry 1, then draw a card. I might play this card in blue-white control. Like, this is wild. 2 mana, just lock down your creature. Certain utility creatures will still be able to do their thing, which is obviously a bit of a pisser, but that's okay. And then when you're wrathing the board later, if you have excess mana, you can just pay 1 to scry and draw a card off of it. This card seems wild. Like, this is probably the best version of a frozen solid that we'll ever see. Like, that's kind of hot. Have they ever printed a 2 mana Claustrophobia? Besides this one, most of the ones are like color specific. Like they are, let's see, they're like tap the, or sorry, they're like if the creature is red or green, tap it and then it doesn't untap. Let's see, mana value. I mean, there's Bind to the Monsters, which was the 1 blue one that damaged you. It was very funny because people were like, this is the blue Swords to Plowshares. Case and Ice. Narcolepsy's pretty good, but they still get to untap it. Yeah, I think this is the best one. I mean, Winter's Rest is pretty good. The 2 mana one from... we have Winter's Rest, right? The 2 mana Snow one. It's pretty good. Yeah, this card seems wild. I'm going to consider playing it in blue-white. I'll give it a shot. And if you're like a Bant Enchantress deck, you could play it too. Or you could play it in Incarnation. If you're like an Incarnation build with heavier blue. Because you can just like lock down something early so you don't die. And then sack it to your Incarnation and then just draw a card off of it. It's pretty hot. Chancellor of Tales. 3 and a blue for a 2/3 fairy advisor with flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Great. So, this is kind of funny because, so that they changed the wording on this, right? It's now an adventure spell. Let's see. Which is kind of interesting. I'm just looking at all the adventures that are currently previewed. They're all instants and sorceries. I mean, adventure permanence is kind of weird, right? Like, how is that exactly going to work? Anyways, just something I noticed. Yeah, I don't think this card is good. Because, I don't know, there isn't exactly an adventure deck. I mean, you could put together an adventure deck for funsies. You could play this in an adventure commander deck. I just wanted to talk about it because it's nice that we have redundancy for this kind of effect. So if you want to build an adventure commander deck, you have an adventure commander, and now you have additional cards that let you do some stuff. Yeah, it's just an interesting, like, it's just a change of wording that I look at it and go like, huh, so they did this for some reason. Enchantment Cycle? The Enchantment Cycle has spells on the adventure. Extraordinary Journey. XX blue blue. When it ETBs, you exile up to X target creatures, and for each of those creatures, the owner may play it as long as it remains exiled. Whenever one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield, if one or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay. So I get to temporarily exile my opponent's stuff, and then I get to draw cards and they cast them. But to exile one card, it takes 4 mana temporarily. I would hate to open this as a rare. Yep. Hate to open this as a rare. Gadwick's First Duel. I like how fake magic cards sound nowadays. Like this shit, this is just Ragavan's Revenge all over again. Gadwick's First Duel. 1 in a blue for an enchantment. It's a saga. Chapter 1, you create a cursed roll attached up to 1 target creature. Chapter 2 is Scry 2. And Chapter 3 is when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less, you may copy that spell and you may choose new targets. This one is also kind of interesting, where like mucking an opponent's creature, they still retain the abilities, but making them a 1/1. It's not that bad. Scry 2, awkward timing on the Scry 2, because it's just like, oh, well, I've already drawn my card. I guess I'll Scry 2, plan for next turn. And then just getting to like copy a spell is pretty hot. Like there's a lot going on in this card that is really neat. And it is an anti-aggression tool, right? Which is also kind of cool. I could maybe see this in like a blue-red control deck. Like, I could see this maybe popping up in blue-red. I'm not saying I condone it, but I could see it happening. Just like, make something small enough that it just gets burned out. Scry 2 is just always welcome. And then getting to double up on a draw spell or a burn spell the next turn. Not bad. But this has enough going for it that I felt like we should talk about it. Ice Rot Sentry. 2 and a blue for a 2/3 elemental soldier with vigilance. And whenever Ice Rot Sentry attacks, you may pay 1 and a blue. When you do, tap target creature and opponent controls. And whenever you tap a creature and opponent controls, Ice Rot Sentry gets +2/+1 till end of turn. So I don't think this card's playable in any of the formats we're talking about. Although maybe Commander, because this, like, freed from the reel of their thing, it's just like, and it hits somebody else for a bajillion. Or yeah, Cryptic Command the entire board. This gets massive. I kind of love this card, just like for limited and as a goofy commander card. But I'm really enamored with the Ice Queen, and I'm excited to build her as a commander deck. So yeah, this is like a deck I'd like to draft pretty early on into the format. It looks so cool. Yeah, just tapping everybody's untapped creature and then just smashing them. Opposition with this card. Tap down everything. Smash. It's an opponent controls, which is a little bit of a pisser, but you know, what are you gonna do? Ingenious Prodigy. X and a blue for a 0/1 human wizard with Skulk. Didn't want to print it on the One Ring, but we're okay printing it here. I guess it's at rare. Ingenious Prodigy enters the battle, and it has reminder text. Interesting. So it has Skulk is not an ability. It's not in this set outside of, I think, this card, right? And I kind of like them doing that. I think they mentioned that they wanted to do more kind of like one-off returns of mechanics if it fits. And it makes sense to do that at rare, right? Where like, oh, it's a rare, you might not run into this that much. But then it's also at rare with reminder text, which is usually where you don't have reminder text on rares for keywords, right? Either way, it ETBs with X 1/1 counters, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if Ingenious Prodigy has 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you can remove a counter from it, and if you do, draw a card. I don't think this card will see play, but it's a really cool commander card and a cute ability. And yeah, it's just the wizard who's aging backwards. That's it. Yeah, I'd rather than call it Skulk than have it labeled as like, you know, the One Ring does it. Not the One Ring, but the Ring Tempts You does it. Talion's Messenger. 2 and a blue for a 1/3 fairy noble with flying. Whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, draw a card, and then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, put a 1/1 counter on target fairy you control. So this is just a 3-mana 1/3. With when it attacks or when any other fairy attacks, doesn't matter how many, 1 or more, I guess. You're just going to get to loot and pump something, which is kind of neat. You can only pump fairies. Just going to take a look. I haven't taken a look at the number of playable fairies in a while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm being very generous here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, 16, 17, 18. There are 18, if I'm being generous, there are 18 playable fairies in Canadian Highlander. Don't know if that's enough, but it's nice to get more of them, you know? And we could get stuff for the precons, that's true. One of them is a fairy precon. So yeah, we might get more fairies. But until then, back for seconds. 2 and a black for a sorcery with bargain. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was bargained, you may put one of those cards with mana value 4 or less onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. I saw somebody making a deck that was like 4 back for seconds, 4 beseech the mirror, 4 Shieldred the Apocalypse. And it was all just, the entire deck was just based around getting Shieldred in play as quickly and as often as possible. I thought it was very funny. Yeah, this one, I don't know. I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was very funny. I don't think this card is good enough to see play. Maybe in Sacrifice, just because you have so many. Like, that's an attrition-based deck that has tokens, that has other cards you want, and you want to sacrifice stuff. And a lot of the engine pieces in that deck sit at 3 or 4. So, you know, if there is a home, we have a home for this kind of card. And so if this card is going to show up, it's probably going to show up in that deck. But does that deck necessarily want this kind of card? You know, that's the issue. That's the issue. 55 Shieldred, 55 back for seconds, 55 Beseech Bear. This doesn't go to Enigmatic Incarnation. I mean, maybe we, like, decks like that, right? You need a certain density of cards. It's like, do we need this? We're getting another Gravedigger. Like, we have a bunch of ways of already doing this kind of thing. Do we need this card? Especially because it doesn't synergize too much with our engines. You know? I don't know. I'm not super impressed. Callous Sellsword. 1 and a black for a 2/2 human soldier. Callous Sellsword enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each creature that died under your control this turn. Then for a red, there's a sorcery that's an adventure. Burn Together. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any other target, then sacrifice it. This is a very weird kind of take on Fling now, where it's better against counter magic and it's worse against everything else. I think. Right? Like, it's just, I don't know how into, like, where are we playing this card? Why am I playing this card? And like, maybe you could play it in Kratz because this can get big. But I don't know. Like, this is, it doesn't, it feels just kind of not great. Yeah. This one, and at sorcery, like, it's like thud, but again, it's a thud that they can respond to. Like, we already have that. It is attached to a creature. But I don't, yeah. I don't know. I'm not super impressed. Ego Drain. Great name. Phenomenal name. 1 black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You can choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand. So you can 1 black to both of us lose a card, which I think we already had. Actually, we had it from last Eldraine. Spectre's Shriek can effectively do that. Although this says discard. So they discard, they don't exile. You end up exiling. If you have a fairy, this card's great. So like if fairies do end up seeing some amount of play, why'd you have... computer, never show me this fairy. Oh, computer, stop. I can't believe you would get rid of the Rebecca Gay spell stutter sprite for this. Wait a minute, I have a tweet for this. Hold up, I have a tweet for this. Where's my very good tweet? Also, did the font of Twitter change today? I swear to God, or X. I swear to God the font on X changed. Like I pressed nothing and it changed. Don't call it X. I think it's very funny to call it X. I mean, I just call it Twitter, but I think it's very funny to call it X. Tweets are being called it. Tweets are being rebranded as posts. Hell yeah. This is what divorce looks like. There we go. This is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about this. I'm being so fucking brave. Genshin Impact looking fucking... Alright. So yeah, in regards to Ego Drain, these kind of cards are always kind of poo-poo. But considering that, like, if you are playing a fairies deck, you are blue-black, you are heavily disruptive. That's the whole point, is that your tempo with the, you know, disruption. And, yeah. Great. Hopeless Nightmare. 1 black for an enchantment. When Hopeless Nightmare enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. When Hopeless Nightmare is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2. Pay 2 and a black, sacrifice Hopeless Nightmare. This card is kind of funny because it's a lot, right? Like this is the, what is it? This is one of these cards where it's just like, okay, how much do I have to give you to get you to play this? Right? It's the, like, how much life would a card have to gain you for one, like, for how much would a 1 mana gain you X life card have to gain you for you to play it? How much would a 1 mana black burn spell have to do for you to play it? And like, this is pretty close. Discarding a card and losing 2 is kind of hot. And when it goes to the bin, you scry 2. And you can sacrifice it by itself. Obviously, this is like a plant for bargain in that it's a cheap card, so it works well for... It's a cheap permanent, so it works for celebration, and it works for bargain, which is nice. But yeah, I don't know. These cards are always like worse than they look, but this is the best one that we've seen. It has a lot of relevant text, and you can cast it off of Luris. Like I'd actually consider playing this in Incarnation because it's a 1 mana enchantment that we can put into the graveyard if we need to repeatedly do a thing. It lets us Incarnation into our Sithis or into another draw engine. Well, into Sithis as a draw engine or Sanctum Weaver. And yeah, if we can repeatedly cast this, it's kind of hot. But these cards are usually traps. But this has a lot going for it. Maricat, welcome back for the 3rd month. How you doing? How you been? Glad to have you. May I say good to see you.
Eggs, E-double-G-S eggs.
Pywo Dwagon, welcome back for the 45th month. Dragged myself away from Vintage Cube for 30 seconds to turn on stream. Happy cubing. I hope it goes well. Thank you for all the support. It means a lot to me. Get ready. Here, let's do this. Lord Skitter, Sewer King. 2 and a red for a legendary creature, Rat Noble. Whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. This has some of the best art that I've seen in a while. It is so great. It's a giant rat who makes all of the rules. Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-mana 3/3 with a repeatable token generation and graveyard hate. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'd consider playing this in mono black midrange. I'd consider playing this in like I'm going to play this in Kratz. I'll give it a shot in Kratz. It doesn't scale the same way that like Legion Warboss does or Adeline does, but I don't know, making a bunch of tokens each turn that can also just like chew up an opponent's graveyard is kind of hot. And it's got a big rat on it. So it gets extra points for that. I mean, look how happy Ratthew is. Ratthew's losing their fucking mind. Does it get into rats? The 3-drop slot is, well, it's not that full because of all the 2-drops we're playing. All the rat colonies. But yeah, I'd play this in rats. Not dead after all. How to scare a modern player with 1 card. Single black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains, when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Then, create a Wicked Roll token attached to it. Very funny. What are the ones they play? Undying Malice? They play Undying Malice and Feign Death. I guess those both come into play with counters on them. But now this means that you can mix up which version you're playing to get around, like, I don't know, potentially meddling mages and that kind of stuff. Obviously, it gets bigger, and then when it dies, they lose more life. Yeah, Malakir Rebirth is like a freebie. Undying Evil. Well, Undying Evil is a little awkward because it doesn't synergize with the other ones. Right? Because Undying Evil gives it Undying, and if it has a counter on it, Undying isn't going to work. This works with Undying Evil, which is pretty funny. It's just another one of these cards. These cards are pretty strong. If you play Canlander, and if you're playing like Mardu Initiative, or you can even slide a couple of these into Esper Initiative, then you can pop off with this. There's just a whole bunch of these. And I think there's a lot of unexplored territory in playing these in Gladiator as well. We have a bunch of them. It's the kind of card that as you get more powerful ETBs and more, cheap creatures or evoke creatures or whatever, it's just nice to have a bunch of them. They're a little awkward in multiples when you don't have something to feign death, and obviously they're a little awkward against exile. But it's nice to have them pop up. Spectre of Mortality. 3 black for a 3/3 flying. When Spectre of Mortality enters the battlefield, you may exile 1 or more creature cards from your graveyard. When you do, each other creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards exiled this way. This one's a little tricky. It's super appealing in that, like, it can hit play and then just like once, like Plague Wind, right? And it sticks around. Obviously, it kills your own creatures that aren't the Spectre, but it can get rid of some cheap little blockers. Exiling only creature cards from your graveyard is a bit of a pisser. but I think we can make it work. You got some merfolk looters and other trash lying around that you might need to get rid of. So I could see this pop up, not as like a stock card in stock lists, but I could see this card pop up in like the Esper Reanimator decks, or like even like blue-black Reanimator, like Black X, like mid-range could maybe give this a shot. It's just a creature that can kill the board. Like it is the same mana as Massacre Girl, but you control what you exile too. So there might be a spot where you just like want to get rid of the little creatures and not the bigger creatures. And flying, it costs what, or sorry, it has one less power, but flying is more guaranteed to hit than menace. And you know, there's we're getting to a point where there is a lot of customization in the type of effect that you get to play, right? If you are looking for a black creature with an ETB that can muck up multiple things on the board, you have Massacre Girl, you have Spectre, you have Massacre Worm, you can go up to Night Clubber. There's just a bunch of stuff available, and I think that's great. That leads to more interesting discussions within the communities and the players about like what they want to play, how they want to tech their deck, and it's just nice to have options. Spiteful Hexmage. 1 black for a 3/2 human warlock. When Spiteful Hexmage enters the battlefield, you attach a cursed roll token attached to target creature you control. I gotta tell you, I really wish they'd stop printing these kind of cards. Like maybe there's a world where there's a deck that wants to sacrifice like the roll token, or you know, obviously it works with this card works really well with bargain, but even then, like the payoff is just a 3/2. I don't know. I find this design space to be pretty boring. Yeah, I find this design space to be pretty boring, where it's just like the payoff for this is just a body that isn't actually that relevant in modern day Magic. Like it's just not threatening enough. It trades with everything, with the burn spells, with even the cheap utility creatures. It requires you to have additional things in order to get going. Even if you are like, you could play it and enchant itself with this, and then you can like maybe play a cheap bargain spell to get rid of it or whatever. It's just, I don't, yeah, I'm not super impressed by this design space. Like, and we keep getting cards like this. It's not just black, right? It's the Sleeper Agent line of card where like, hey, what if you got a big thing or a medium-sized thing? Yeah, you put another roll in it. Like, again, for limited purposes, I guess it's cool. It does a thing. It can, like, you feel pretty cool when you play this and do something else to get rid of the downside, but then you just get, like, a vanilla body. That's my thing, is that, like, you can pair it with other cards, and you might feel, like, maybe it feels good to be like, I had this card, it had a downside, but I turned that downside into something positive by spending additional resources or whatever. It doesn't do, I don't know if it does enough. Like, I don't think the payoff, I'm not saying that like the payoff is like make it bigger, because that also doesn't make it more exciting, I don't think. It just, yeah, it's just not super inspiring to me. Virtue of Persistence. 5 black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Wait, hold on. There. And then it has Lochthwain Scorn as an adventure. For 1 and a black, a sorcery. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. I'm going to play the shit out of this card in Black X mid-range decks, big black, Black X control even. Like, -3/-3 and gain 2 life, even though it's at sorcery, pretty good. Like, black having some cheap kind of life gain attached to its removal spells is very necessary. Yeah, you gain 2 life. It's not lose 2 life. You gain 2 life. And then the payoff is that you just get this like card that can't get hand attacked that's chilling in exile. And you're like, okay, 7 mana, play this card. I hope you can kill me or this next turn. Like, it just... Great. Love it to bits. I feel like I'm going to be playing this card a lot in Commander too. We're seeing kind of a push for commanders that are more engine-based, utility-based, and like -3/-3 can kill a lot of commanders, or can kill a lot of engine creatures like Debtor's Knell, or not Debtor's Knell, Tireless Provisioner, Keeper of the Accord, I don't know, stuff like that. So yeah, I imagine this card will show up a lot in Commander as well as Gladiator. Tangled Colony. Oh no. Uh-oh, Rathu's getting too excited again. Tangled Colony. They made a Rat King. 1 in a black for a 3/2 rat. Tangled Colony can't block. When Tangled Colony dies, you create X 1/1 black creature tokens that are rats. With this creature can't block, where X is the amount of damage dealt to it this turn. Yeah, aggressive black decks probably want to play this card. Just slam it in, trade with their creature, make some more rats. Maybe you hit them for 3, and then it trades, and then you get some rats. Funny against Blasphemous Act and Commander? Yeah. Like, if you could do a shitload of damage to this, it doesn't matter where the damage comes from, which is pretty funny. Great. Love to see it. It doesn't do anything for you in Aristocrats. Not really. But that's fine. That's fine. Weird how they can... sorry. Hey, look, an undercosted black aggressive creature that's interesting and playable. Weird how they could do both in the same set. I mean, I would be infinitely more interested in just having this and then the other slot going to something else, but you know what? It's not my call to make. Not my call to make. This card's great, right? Obviously, the rate is pretty neat. 2 mana, 3 power. That's appealing already. Can't block. That's a downside, but it's a downside that if you're playing this card, you probably don't care about. And then when it dies, you get to make more rats. And it's like, well, of course it'll die because I'm turning things sideways, right? I'm attacking a lot. Creatures die. And so they could use a kill spell on this card, but they're probably just trading mana neutral, or they're going, mana neutral, maybe mana positive, because it does get hit by cut down, but that's fine. You're an aggressive deck. You signed up for this. But if they block, if the way that they deal with this card is by building to the board, then I get a bunch of rats that invalidates their kill spells. Great. That's cool. This is an appealing card that has a downside. And like that has multiple downsides, right? And that's cool. I like these kind of cards. I think players like these kind of cards. More rats. Ahoy, L, how you doing? Oh, fuck. All right, we're on to red. What's the other downside? Well, the rats that it makes... Okay, so the downside is that it can't block. The other downside is that if they just kill it, it just dies. And and often a lot of death triggers make up for the fact that your opponent isn't necessarily going to get to trade 1v1. And then also, technically, the third downside is that the rat tokens you make can't block, which is good because, well, you don't want to gum up the board too much. But also, that is a downside, right? Yeah. But downsides are okay. Like downsides, cards can have downsides, and downsides are okay as a form of balancing a card or making them thematic or making gameplay interesting, Tarang, welcome back for the 15th month. Aw, shucks. Let my Prime sub drop. No worries. You're good. What's important is you're here right now. Glad to have you. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Goblin Bombardment. This is in the Mystical Tales or Enchanted Tales. 1 in a red enchantment. Sack a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. This is sick. Aristocrats is already just like a reasonable deck to play in this format. And now you have this. And like you could play tokens. You could play I mean, this card should go into goblins. Anything that generates a bunch of tokens, this card is obviously cracked. Aristocrats, goblins, tokens. This card is like not okay. Like it's very powerful. To do it for free? Oh. It's pretty hot. Pretty hot. I'm excited for this card. Does the Enchanted Tales bring back old, goofy, and weird Magic art for me? Some of the... Yeah, I mean... Oh, this one might not be previewed, actually. Hold on, let me double check. Yeah, I don't think it's been previewed. You'll know it when there's one of the Enchanted Tales arts that is just so fucking funny. It's so good. You'll know it when you see it. You'll know it when you see it. Showed the ogre hiding in the bush. Oh, the sneak attack. Yeah, that's not the one I'm talking about. The one I'm talking about has not been, as far as I can see, it has not been previewed. I'll check Mythic Spoiler just in case. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, you'll know it when it comes out. You'll know it when it comes out. Imodane, the Pyro Hammer. So obviously this is a card I'm going to have to build for Commander. It's a large, powerful woman with a giant hammer, and it's on fire. And it has a really cool ability. She's got a wooden arm. Holy shit, this is the coolest card I've ever seen. The realm needs a ruler, not a boy playing king. Damn. Okay. Wow, I'm gonna have to build so many fucking commander decks. Whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control that targets only a single creature deals damage to that creature, Imodane deals that much damage to each opponent. This might actually replace Ben Ben, or this will be like a partner commander to Ben Ben. Partner's not a good word because partner commander means something else. But this is the like, oh, I just get to do something similar-ish to Ben Ben. That's so fucking cool. Like I just get to harvest pyre somebody's creature. It deals it to each opponent, which is so wild. Harvest pyre somebody's creature and just kablamo. What's a good one? I'm trying to think of ones that I don't play in Ben Ben. I mean, Perforos's Intervention is pretty good. How do you spell your name? Twice X to target creature. No, it has to be targets only a single creature, which is so sick. Just like Perforos's Intervention, something for 10. Like to deal 10. And then it just deals 10 to that, and everybody takes 10, and if you have damage doublers. Like Perforos, if you deal 10 with a damage doubler in play, you just kill the entire table. Right? Like I go to deal 10 to this and it deals 20 instead. And then Imodane says, hey, deal 20 to each opponent, but that gets doubled, so it's going to deal 40. That's great. Yeah, I'm so stoked to play this card. This is going to be... We might actually do this for the first time in a while. We might do a Commander deck building stream for all the legends in this set. or the interesting legends in the set. Yeah, I think I want to do that. Just like we haven't done a deck building stream in a hot minute, and I think a commander deck building stream would be fun. Because some of these, they're really, the commanders that we have seen, a lot of them, inspiring, build-arounds, aspirational, extremely cool and fucking good. You know, all the technical terms. Like, stoked to play them. Stoked to play them. Jenny Fuchsia, welcome back for the full year. Glad to have you. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Thank you for all the support. That means a lot to me. Impact Tremors, part of the Enchanting Tales. 1 and a red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's kind of like a Blood Artist effect, but not exactly. I don't think this is going to make the cut, given that we just got Goblin Bombardment. This is a much more appealing card when you have multiple effects in this kind of, you know, purview, as well as when you have multiple opponents. But it's a cool card. I mean, it's a pet card for a lot of people, right? Like, this card shows up into so many commander decks. I wouldn't be surprised if... I mean, guess what? We're doing... after Onslaught block, we are doing Cons block for Achievement Wheel or Love Magic. That's not public, but it is... I mean, if you're on the Patreon, it did get voted as the next block to be doing. I think we talked about it a bit. I'm pretty sure this card might be the most played card from Dragons. It is. Yeah. It's the most played card in Dragons. It's in 109,000 decks. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's a popular card. Redcap Gutter Dweller. Great name. There are a couple of cards. There are a couple of cards in this set review that I just want to talk about because of their names. 2 and 2 red for a 3/3 Goblin Warrior with Menace. When Redcap Gutter Dweller enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't be blocked. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Redcap Gutter Dweller and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So this comes into play with 3 bodies. So 4 mana, 3 bodies, 5/5 stats across the board. Part of that is Menace, which is neat. And the 2 rats are kind of poo-poo. Like, the rat tokens aren't great. Just 1/1s that can't block, and they're also not goblins. Then upkeep, sack another creature. Doesn't have to be these tokens. If you do, you put a 1/1 counter on it and get to play something this turn. So you get to bolster this menacing goblin and you know, draw an extra card. So this card's going to show up in, I imagine, exactly one place. Like, this might... It's, I don't know, looking at Mardu Aristocrats in Gladiator, your 4-drop slot is highly competitive. And if we're getting Cons block soon, you know, there's already... We got Butcher the Horde coming on in. Like, maybe this shows up in like an Aristocrats deck as well at the top end, but I'm not locking in on that because, like, maybe even just Shieldred is better to play than a card like this. But for goblins, even though it doesn't make goblins, you can still sacrifice goblins or sacrifice the rats to make this bigger. It's a body that comes with other bodies, and even though those other bodies aren't goblins, you can just feed them to the Gutter Dweller or feed them to your Goblin Bombardment, or they're just, you know, another part of going wide. Cool card. Harried Spearguard. 1 mana, 1/1 human soldier with haste. When Harried Spearguard dies, you create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. We got another Grim Initiate. The Crawling Chorus is one that I don't play in Highlander Kratz, at least not in the 4-color version, because it makes something that can't block, and those tokens not being able to block is a bit of a pisser. But for Gladiator Krats, like, it's just redundancy. You've just got another 1 mana 1/1. The one it sacks, you make a thing. 1 mana 1/1, 2 bodies. It's just another copy. It's another copy. This might be my favorite name in the set. One of them, top 5 for sure. Picnic Ruiner. 1 in a red for a Goblin Rogue. With whenever Picnic Ruiner attacks, while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, Picnic Ruiner gains double strike until end of turn. Then has the adventure Stolen Goodies. 3 in a green. Distribute 3 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures you control as a sorcery. I mean, both Stolen Goodies and Picnic Ruiner are really powerful names. I wouldn't recommend playing this magic card. But all of this together is a pretty appealing package. Stolen Goodies is pretty good. Like, this is kind of what you would want adventures to be, I guess, is that, I mean, you'd probably want them to be as good as they could be. But, like, having the adventure side of some of these cards just be, you know, a card that might be your 23rd card in a limited deck is pretty great. It's pretty great. So, yeah. It's kind of nice.
Abusing magic.
Ooh. We're on to green. Physicist, welcome to the stream. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for supporting the channel. I might take another break. Are you going to let me take a break? What do you mean I have to wait? What if I snooze this? Great. We're on to green. Royal Roll. 1 green instant. Target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Create a Royal Roll token attached to that creature. And a Royal Roll token is Enchanted Creature gets +1/+1, has Ward 1. Yeah, this is really good. I mean, it's just another... wait, hold on. Is there an ad going on? If people are watching an ad, I don't know why I'm the one that has to ask this. Hey, chat. For people that are more familiar with Twitch than me, a full-time Twitch streamer that has been doing this for 4 years. Not for me? Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, we have ads turned off for people that are subscribed, but there was an ad coming up. I told it to, hey, just no, wait a second. And then on one screen it says like, there's an ad break in process. It's like, no, I told you to wait. Okay, it got snoozed. All right, good. Oh yeah, this card's cracked, right? It's just, it's another card in the line of 1 mana instants that give a thing hexproof. And this happens to come with a permanent buff. Snakeskin Veil comes with a 1/1 counter, whereas this one comes with an aura. But that aura also giving it Ward 1 is pretty hot, right? This can be really taxing, especially if you are playing against the green X deck that has these style of cards, where you're like, you use the first spell knowing that it might get got anyways, and often you're doing it like end of turn, right? Or in response to something else. And then you untap and try to go and play another one. And the Ward 1 says, nope. Importantly, the Ward 1 is really good fighting out permanent based removal. So like Ward 1 adds this layer of, oh, I couldn't kill it on their turn because they cast the royal treatment. But now my on-curve Ravenous Chupacabra, or I guess Solitude in Canlander, or my Planeswalker that I'm going to downtick and kill, like it's not going to work because I don't have the mana to pay for Ward. Snakeskin Veil coming with a counter is relevant, especially because there are cards in green and green X that give a shit about counters. And that's not something to scoff at. The fact that the roll token can get blown up because only the creature has Ward 1, not the actual enchantment, is, you know, an issue, or could be an issue. And so I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I'm just going to say you should probably play both. And that if you haven't already cut Wild Shape, you should cut Wild Shape. Like, these decks will just want a bunch of them. This card is certainly better than Ranger's Guile. But like Blossoming of Defense, Royal Treatment, Snakeskin Veil is just like, that's a fucking core right there, you know? What? Oh, we're not done. I guess that makes sense. Oh, maybe it's because these cards weren't on the Wizards card gallery, but they were on, they had been officially previewed, and I wanted to sneak them in. The why? Maybe I just mislabeled this. Where's Tyvar Stand? Tyvar Stand is in that category, but Tyvar Stand is also, Tyvar Stand is also, like a fireball spell, right? Like, Tyvar Stand is not a card where you, what the fuck am I trying to say? It's not a card where I would necessarily look at it and be like, this is one of my blossoming defenses. It's the kind of card where you look at it and go like, this is a protection spell, but also a fireball. Like, this is an Embercleave kind of card. I mean, you probably just include it anyways, but yeah. The least played commander from the set, it's in Izuka the Ruthless. You mean Saviors of Kamigawa All-Star, Izuka the Ruthless? 5 mana, 3, it's in red. 5 mana, 3/3, Human Samurai, Bushido 2, and you can pay 3 mana to sack a samurai to give samurais you control double strike until end of turn. It's really bad. It was like basically unplayable for, yeah. It was basically unplayable for, until Neon Dynasty came out. Because there was like 5 red samurai. Yeah, it's so bad. I mean, as a card, I've seen worse. But yeah, it's not great. I wonder if it makes it into, it's got to make it into the 99 of like Ryu, right? Thunderboy. Mr. Lightning. God, I just want to play MGR again. Two-headed hunter. 4 and a green for a 5/4 giant with menace. But it has an adventure called Twice the Rage. 1 and a red instant. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. I'm not saying you should play this. But if you're like a green-red blitz deck and you just want to max out on the double strikers, like the amount of ways to give double strike to a creature, this one's not that bad. I was thinking about like, is there any kind of context where you want it to be a creature that you can tutorable for? And like maybe and like you'll get up to 5, right? It's like a card where you can use it and then just get up to 5 later and cast this. It's a little awkward though, because like contextually when you're playing these kind of decks, if I go to cast this spell and they're not dying, it's probably because they've killed the creature in response or countered it. And so then this doesn't go in the adventure. So it's just like maybe it doesn't actually line up, but you know. It's a double strike one that you can use to push through damage with the ability to play it out later. Thomas, what up? Where's my money? Where's my money, Thomas? Don't get funny about my money. Bramble Familiar. I guess we're starting green. I'm gonna put us on a very quick break as well, because I have this contractually obligated break. before we actually start talking about this card. It's a very cute raccoon dog. At the Wige, including the cash you owe me? You can e-transfer me, my guy. Filigree Trash Panda. It's a very goofy raccoon. It's also just like a 2-mana 2/2 mana dork. Not actually going to talk about this card too much, but it is kind of wild. Now would be a good time to see if there's any new cards that have been previewed. I don't think so. Oh, I do have one other card that I should talk about before we get to this one. So I can use this time to grab it. Will there be a PPR for Eldraine? Oh, I thought I had it up here. You bet. Yeah, actually, I could talk about that real quick. This. Yes. So on the 26th, next Saturday, I can't believe this is a week from now, there's a new PPR. There's PPR for Wilds of Eldraine, the pre-release, over at twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be world first Wilds of Eldraine sealed gameplay outside of Wizards of the Coast. And we got some cool guests. We got Lady Lavinius, and we got Jumbo Commander, DJ from Jumbo Commander. I guess it's the same person. And then we have WotC senior game designer Chris Mooney coming down. Very excited to have WotC people coming back. We also got some cool stuff like deck techs, like, oh shit, did I bring the cards for this deck tech? Hold on. Wait. Was I supposed to bring cards for a deck tech? Wait 1 second. Oh crap. Oh, they forgot to drop them off on Friday. Okay, great. We figured it out. Yeah, there's going to be a new Commander deck tech. There's going to be a new punt counter punt. We got some cool stuff to do. First PPR in the new studio as well. So excited to get that going. So yeah, next Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The Wilds of Eldraine pre-release. Did I forget to get Ben's for the deck cards for the deck tech? Don't worry about it. Not really. Not entirely. No, he messaged me with the stuff that he needed, like the cards. I supply a reasonable chunk of some of the cards for these deck techs. If you couldn't tell by the assorted German foils in these deck techs. He was like, hey, can you drop off these cards anytime before Monday? Or I can come and pick them up from you. And I went, yeah, no worries. And I forgot to drop them off for FNPF, which means he's going to have to come by and get them. But that's okay because he's giving me a fight stick because my fight stick broke. And not through gamer rage either. It just broke. Anywho, we've got a Bramble Familiar in front of us. 1 and a green for a 2/2 elemental. I had a hiccup. 1 and green for a 2/2 elemental raccoon. Tap to add a green to your mana pool. And then pay a green and a colorless. Tap, discard a card, return it to your hand. And then has the sorcery Fetch Quest. 5 green. It's an adventure. Mill 7 cards, and then put an enchantment, creature, or land card from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. I feel like a big green deck or a big green-red deck is going to want to play this card. It's kind of funny that it's a 2-mana 2/2. Like, Servant of the Conduit attacks. Like, 2-mana 2/2 is a hell of a stat line on a mana dork. Even if this is only adding green. But being able to play it early as a mana accelerant, and then when you're kind of drawing late, you can just convert a land into this spell, is pretty hot. Yeah, fetch quest. It's very cute. Yeah. I think this card's going to see a lot of play in Gladiator. Nowhere else. I mean, Commander, it's pretty good too. Brave the Wilds. 1 green sorcery with bargain. If the spell is bargained, target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental with haste, and it's still a land. Search your library for a basic, put into your hand. It's another Lay the Land. That's incredible. That's incredible. We have so many Lay the Lands that I should probably take a look at building Belcher again in Highlander. Like 8-land Belcher. I wonder if we could build mono black Belcher. With green cards. I mean, it's green black Belcher. Yeah, because it's not until end of turn. It's just, it becomes a 3/3. Sack an enchantment for 1 mana. Wow. Finally, I can put my Omen in the Sea, my Omen of the Sea into my graveyard. Belcher with more than 0 lands is the coward's approach, correct but cowardly? No. Here's my sick Highlander take as the premier Belcher pilot in Canadian Highlander. The Belcher decks that just play like all the double face modal cards and run 0 lands, that's cowardice. You're not playing 0 lands. You're just playing a dog shit ETB tapped mana base. Playing the Belcher decks that are on the Lay the Lands and like 8 lands, that is how you do it. That is how you, because that's so bold. You can still brick, but I'm not a coward. Playing all the double face modal cards is basically going like, oh, I don't want to brick. No, real coward shit. Ground Seal. This is a reprint from Odyssey. It's part of the Enchanting Tales. 1 in green for an ETB, enchantment with an ETB of draw a card. Cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. This is a pretty reasonable Magic card, honestly. Like, there are a lot of decks that target the graveyard, that utilize the graveyard, and it replaces itself. Never thought I'd hear Wheeler call Belcher coward shit. Certain kinds of Belcher is coward shit. If you're going to play Belcher, commit, right? It's the Highlander version of, like, you got to play these, you play Stomping Ground over Taiga, you know? Sacking this to Incarnation. I mean, this is kind of awkward in Incarnation because it's symmetrical. And, like, that's a deck that's all built heavily around returning stuff from the graveyard. But this card is shockingly real. Like, it just replaces itself and can muck some decks. I wouldn't be surprised if some Green X decks just play this to play this. Yeah, hi. Hi. And we have Snapcaster Mage again, right? Stopping, like, Snapcaster, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Reanimator decks. That's pretty real. Return from the Wilds. 2 and a green for sorcery. Choose 2. Search your library for a basic land, put it into play tapped, and shuffle. Create a 1/1 white human creature token, or create a food token. So this is basically just going to be Yavimaya Granger, right? Like, this is, or Farhaven Elf, I guess is a better... Jesus Christ, where's the... Oh, Lord of the Rings, right. That's a very pretty Farhaven Elf. Yeah, this is just Farhaven Elf. I mean, you might make a food token if you really need to, but that's some desperate shit. If you're like food token and a 1/1. But it's nice having that option late. Just, yeah, 3 mana, ramp and make a 1/1 that can chump block. Great. Doesn't work with blink, which is a bit unfortunate, but neat little card. Some flexibility. Might end up seeing some play. What if I need a Nearhaven elf? Yeah, I guess that's true. This does fill that role. Knight of the Sweets Revenge. Oh, big stretch. Big stretch. Knight of the Sweets Revenge. 3 and a green for an enchantment. When Knight of the Sweets Revenge enters the battlefield, you create a food token. Foods you control have tap at a green. And then pay 5 green, sacrifice Knight of Sweets Revenge. Creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of foods you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So the food density in Gladiator, like we have ways of making food, right? But often they just get paired with treasures and clues and all that. And that's the same for Highlander as well. But like we're missing in Gladiator, we're missing some pretty key food generators, which make me a little hesitant to play this card. Like it's just, we don't have Academy Manufactor. We don't have the LOTR cards. Yeah, we're just missing some of the big, like repeatable food generation. The fact that it ETBs with the food is nice. Don't we? I thought we did have Fey Offering. Maybe we don't. Oh, we didn't get Fey Offering. Yeah, Fey Offering. A bunch of them. This is kind of hot. Like it sounds, I look at this card and maybe I'm getting a little too Magical Christmas Land with this. But looking at this card and it's like, well, it makes a food token. If we're a food deck, we probably already have food in play, so it can almost pay for itself immediately. And this gives us a payoff. So like the turn you play it, if you have food, it mostly pays for itself. And then you can still do other stuff with your turn. And then when you untap, you can then activate, you could use all that food to activate this, and you don't sack the food, and you just get a huge payoff. So yeah, I think this card is, like, I don't want to, again, I want to be a little more reserved, but I think this card is pretty hot. I'm going to play this card in Highlander for sure. I might give it a try in Gladiator, depending on how the food generation looks. But I will, I'll give this a shot for sure in Highlander. On to gold. Oh no, we're not, because I couldn't find a high quality scan of this card. So you're just, you're gonna have to take my word for this. Because this is a big get for Gladiator. Being very excited about getting to share this card. We have a new, oh no, don't do that. Mulder, thank you for making a big gross poop. Oops. What are you doing? My cat's wilding out. Utopia Sprawl. The version that we have is non-English, which I can show it off, but I want to explain because it's very nice artwork. But we're getting Utopia Sprawl. 1 green for an enchantment aura. Enchant Forest. As it comes into play, you choose a color. Whenever you tap Enchanted Forest for mana, you add 1 mana of the chosen color. I'm going to show off the nice, I mean, this art's also nice, but like, this is some killer artwork right here. So yeah, we're getting a, we're getting another 1 mana accelerant. This is not a creature, which is nice. And it's color fixing, which is nice. Card's great. I imagine this will see quite a bit of play. Yeah, I mean, when you play it in the enchantment decks proper, great. But like this couldn't pop up elsewhere as well. I mean, frankly, I'm most excited for this card. I'm most excited for this card for Pauper. I own a couple of pauper decks, but one of the pauper decks I own is the Auras deck, and I just don't have. I didn't want to buy Utopia Sprawls because they were like $20 a piece. They were so expensive, but hopefully this. I mean, it means I can get a very pretty set of Utopia Sprawls. How does this work if your land becomes a mountain and it's no longer a forest? It falls off because it needs to be enchanting a forest, and the game says like, well, this isn't a forest. You're not illegal. You can't legally enchant this. Arbor Elf when? Ugh, Arbor Elf. Where's my Bubba? Yeah. Birds of Paradise when? Actually, no. What am I doing? Where is this? We got gold cards to talk about. Likeness Looter. Blue and a black for a 1/1 fairy shapeshifter with flying. Tap to draw a card, discard a card, and then pay X generic mana. Likeness Looter becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with mana value X, except it has flying and this ability. Activate only as a sorcery. This card is great. This card is great. It's a Merfolk Looter with flying, which is already hot. Chips in against planeswalkers, much better than, you know, obviously the other looters. Blocks well. And then late game, if you're like, I don't have a reanimation spell. Wait a minute. Yes, I do. I'm going to activate Likeness Looter to have it become a copy of whatever's in the graveyard and get flying. God forbid you discard, Kroxa or Uro, and then start going off and get your, you get it like a playable Lazov, which is wild. I think this card's pretty good. I imagine it'll see some Canadian Highlander play too, like in the Reanimator decks. Like this has enough good going on for it that I could see this card seeing some play outside of Gladiator. But yeah, I'm going to play the crap out of this card in Gladiator. Is that really our only gold card? No way. Wow, okay. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. 2 mana legendary artifact. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Sorry, creatures you control with 1/+1/+1 counters on them have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Cauldron. And then tap, exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature card is exiled this way, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So, 2 mana artifact. You can tap it to exile creatures from graveyards, or exile anything from graveyard. And if you're exiling a creature, you get to put 1/1 counter on a creature you control. And then any of your creatures with 1/1 counters on them have all the activated abilities of the cards that have been exiled with the Cauldron, and you can use whatever mana to activate them. This is kind of sick. Although I don't know if it's taking the place of the decks that want to play Unlicensed Hearse. But this has a lot of cool play patterns to it. Like exiling, like instead of just making big stat line that gets blocked, like exiling your own activated ability, like creating your own kind of Necrotic Ooze is very appealing. Obviously just playing in a deck with counters is kind of appealing. Like you could just play this in a green-white counters deck. And just exile some hateful cards and just put more counters on things at instant speed. You can use this as graveyard hate to muck against Snapcaster Mages. If you're against, like, this card is just so rude to graveyard decks where, like, you play your Scavenging Ooze and they're like, oh god, okay, kill your Scavenging Ooze. Then you play this and exile the Scavenging Ooze to put a counter on something, and then everything's that whatever it gets the counter is a Scavenging Ooze. Or if your deck already has a bunch of creatures with counters, it gets Scavenging Ooze. Or this is just a Scooze itself. Like, it's just, this card is so rude. Yeah, it's a pretty cool card. Combo opportunities, but also just like a more generalized play pattern with this is pretty interesting. 3 bowls of porridge. Now hold on, it's only activated abilities, right? Have all activated abilities, not static abilities or triggered abilities. Three bowls of porridge. It's an artifact. It's a food token. It has pay 2 generic tap. Choose one that hasn't been chosen. Deals 2 damage to target creature, tap target creature, or sack it and gain 3 life. This card is great. Big fan of this card. Not for Gladiator play. I think it does a little too little. But this is just like such a cool design. Really big fan of the design of this card. Just being able to, you know, from a limited perspective, from a flavor perspective, it's just, yeah, too hot, too cold, just right. And the artwork is cute. It's kind of an egg. Not playing this in eggs. Just get that out of the way. But yeah, really cute card. Mishra's Bauble, welcome back for the 5th month. Who's up stirring their porridge? Yo, who up eating their curds and whey? Any opinion on the new gingerbread lady? We talked about her in part 1. I think she's great. Again, great flavor. I love gingerbread. Yeah, no, I like Sir Ginger. Restless Bivouac. This is the Boros version of the enemy creature land. It's got a giant bull on it, so obviously I like it already. ETB tapped, add white or red, animate for 1 white and a red, becomes a 2/2 until end of turn, and whenever it attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Target creature you control. So they fixed Raging Ravine, which is kind of funny. This is the classic, like, Magic players will take any chance to tell you this fact. But Raging Ravine has the activated ability of pay 4 until end of turn. It becomes a 3/3 with whenever this creature attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and it's still a land. With Raging Ravine, you could activate that ability multiple times, and when it attacked, you'd put on multiple counters, because it would gain multiple instances of that line of whenever this attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. They fixed it. They just said when it attacks, you do a thing. But you could target any creature you control, which is great. If you need to push damage in the air, if you need to build up another creature because you're unlikely to attack with this next turn, you're planning on using your mana for something else, or if you just want to have this get incrementally bigger. Yeah, I like these cards. Creature lands, right? We're going to basically play dual color creature lands no matter what. It doesn't matter how, like, if Lava Claw Reaches was put into Gladiator, like, today, Rakdos would still play it. Like, they're not that bad. Like, even the worst of the worst is still, like, reasonable. Like, the worst creature land, the worst dual color creature land is either Lava Claw Reaches or Hissing Quagmire. And they're just still fine because they just help your mana and they give you something to use with it later on. Which is the best creature land from the set? From this set or from previous sets? We haven't seen the full 5. There is another one that we could talk about. Yeah, they haven't all been previewed. This is another one. It wasn't in the card gallery, but it has been officially previewed. Restless Spire. ETB tapped, add blue or red. Pay blue and a red. Until end of turn, it becomes a 2/1 with, as long as it's your turn, this creature has first strike, and whenever it attacks, you scry 1. Great. Yeah, we're missing green-blue. We've seen, what is it? Restless, Cottage, Fortress, Spire, and Bivouac so far. This one's pretty reasonable. It's cheap. I saw some people talk about how they are like pretty mid on this card. Again, it's a blue-red duel. You're playing it. It's cheap. It pressures planeswalkers and it pushes through X2s. And it scries. That's like not nothing. Especially if you're using like creature lands are typically they pop up when like you either don't want to build more to the board or use additional resources to get something done, or you just have nothing going on, right? And so this lets you this sets you up to maybe do something next turn instead of just animating it and attacking, which is nice. Or it's cheap enough that it lets you activate this and do something else. Like, that's great. What more do you want? I mean, Magic players always want more stuff, and it's disgusting. The best creature land overall, I mean, out of the dual land creature lands is probably just Creeping Tar Pit. Though Colonnade is really good. And I'm not just a boomer saying that. Colonnade is good. I mean, all the original cycle is pretty strong, aside from Lava Claw. So that's it for the cards that got officially previewed in English. I'm going to go now over to the list of cards that are officially previewed in languages that aren't English, but I have the translations up and all that. Chat, you are no longer on screen, so apologies to you or apologies to anybody watching the VOD. You just have to now imagine like all of these weird comments are being made in chat. Archon of the Rosethorn. 2 and 2 white for a 4/4 flying Archon. Other creatures you control that... Where's Ratthew? I don't even know where I saved Ratthew on this. This was used before Ratthew, but fine, I'll get Ratthew up here. Where is Ratthew saved? Here. This is a card that so the floor is it's a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, which is still big, gets things done, kills people. It does require you to have a couple of additional things. It requires you to have other creatures, not a huge ask, but you know, that's one thing that you need going for you. Then it requires those other creatures to be enchanted by auras, which is, it's just a lot to go, like, to get this going. So I'm pretty low on this card. Like, I just think like the auras already make creatures very big. You know, that's kind of their whole thing. So it feels a little win more. Not a huge fan. Armory Mice. 1 and a white for a 3/1 mouse with celebration. Gets +0/+2 as long as 2 or more non-land permanents entered the battlefield under your control this turn. I don't think this is particularly good. I mean, it can be a 2-mana 3/3, I guess in limited, like somewhat reliably. I mostly just wanted to talk about this because it's got a mouse on it. It's very cute. Yeah. It's not a rat, it's a mouse. Remember, we're setting up for Bloomburrow. Rats are in red, black. Mice are in, I guess, white, red. I imagine we're going to get some cards down the line. Like in Bloomburrow, we're going to get cards that care about mice and rats that are going to be in red. Like, if because they're so similar, at least in like the public kind of mind space of cards, and in like they're rodents, right? So I imagine like having both of them dip into red means that we're likely going to get some overlap once we get to Bloomburrow, or maybe even what is it, Karlov Manor, like an old house. There's gonna be mice and rats in an old house, right? Yeah, it's just cute. They're just mice. Charming Scoundrel. 1 in a red for a 1/1 human rogue with haste, and has when it enters the battlefield, you choose one. You can discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Create a treasure token, or create a wicked roll attached to target creature control. Again, the wicked roll is Enchanted Creature gets +1/+1, and when wicked roll dies, they lose 1 life. An opponent loses 1 life. So this is like a 2-mana 2/2. This could be a 2-mana 2/2 haste that when it dies or when the roll goes away, they lose 1. There's so many fucking words on this card. Like it's just so wild to look at this kind of card nowadays. It's just, yeah, that's a lot of text. Yeah, it's like a red Charming Prince. Exactly. Where 2-mana 1/1 make a treasure token on ETB is not that bad, especially because it's 1 in a red, right? Like I am probably going to try this out in Sacrifice if we need more token generators. Being able to rummage is okay. Like this trades with thing, it blocks, it attacks. Or it could just be big enough to actually pressure planeswalkers. Kind of weird. Weird card with a bunch of stuff on it, but I think it's okay. Commander Ud, welcome back for the 5th month. How you doing? How you been? Thank you so much for the support. Glad to have you. Good to see you. How do you feel about Charming Scoundrel? Vote now in the comments below. Raging Battle Mouse. 1 in a red. 1 in a red for a 2/1. It's a mouse. The second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. And has Celebration. At the beginning of combat on each of your turns, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a red 2-drop that can help you double spell and can help you buff your creatures and smack. I don't know. Maybe we're just really spoiled for red 2-drops nowadays, but it's just like there are lines of play where this card is pretty huge, where it could just like pull off something. This is going to seem like a radical comparison, but pulling off something akin to Burning Tree Emissary, where it's just like, play this card, then I'm able to play another card, right? You're not getting to dump it all on turn 2, but it does, like, playing this on turn 2, and then next turn double spelling, and being able to pump this to attack for 3 is pretty hot. Like, this card has some play to it. It definitely has some play to it. Whether or not that's enough to push it into the red decks, or the red X decks, is a different story. It's just, it doesn't have the same oomph that something like Feldon or Bloodthirsty Adversary or Feldon, Bloodthirsty Adversary, I don't know, Bloodfeather Phoenix, just other stuff has. It's got 1 toughness. That's a little whatever. But I don't know. This is definitely a card that you got to play with, you know? Rotisserie Elemental. 1 red for a 1/1 Elemental with Menace. When Rotisserie Elemental deals combat damage to a player, you put a skewer counter on it, and then you may sacrifice it. If you do, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of skewer counters on it. You may play those cards this turn. So this is... I don't really want to use the word worse Bomat Courier. It's a different take on something like Bomat Courier. Bomat Courier can obviously go in any deck. But you're going to want to play it in red, or decks with red. It being an artifact lets you play it in some of the artifact aggressive decks. And Bomat Courier lets you, you know, it's got haste, it hits right away, and lets you put the cards into your hand. That's appealing. Rotisserie Elemental has Menace, which makes it it's easier to just attack with this card. Although it doesn't have the pseudo like ETBs with a card exiled that Bomat Courier would. You don't have to sacrifice your hand in order to get the payoff for this card.
Eggs.
And you don't like, you're not that the exiling stuff face down is that bad, but you don't have to like, you know, it's just like you don't have to exile these cards, which could be relevant in some matchups and some decks that have tutoring effects or give a care about having certain cards still available to them. Yeah, it's like overall, are you going to get more bang for your buck out of Bomat Courier than Rotisserie Elemental? And the answer is yeah, you're likely going to just Bomat Courier is just overall a bit of a stronger card in most cases. But there are a lot of spots where Bomat Courier is just kind of medium and does not pair well with some of the other like effects of like modifying its power and toughness and whatnot. So yeah. I could see myself playing this card, but I'm not exactly jumping for joy when it comes to like, I'm not like, oh my god, it's a second Bomat Courier. It's just like, oh, this does a thing. I like that thing. It's got Menace. Sure. The fact that you can't sack in response to removal is a bit whatever, but that doesn't actually happen a huge amount of the time. Like, Bomat Courier is really a card where you want to be the one dictating the circumstances in which it gets used. It's a little unfortunate that you can't just like be like, well, I need to cash in this courier or cash in this rotisserie elemental, attack, and then before block sack it. Yeah, I'll try both. Janison Cat back for the year. How you doing? How you been? Hope you're doing good. I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing well as well. Unrelated to anything except my board state, do I think Bowmasters might be the nail in the coffin for Library and Vintage Cube? I mean, it makes it a little bit worse, but I don't know. I still think Library is fine. I haven't drafted this new cube, though. I heard they made some... Did they cut White Plume Adventurer? I don't know the exact changes they made to it. They cut White Plume. Very funny. I wish they would do that from everything. Just get rid of the initiative. Hilda's Winter Crown. 3-mana artifact. 3-mana legendary artifact. Pay 1 generic and tap. Tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate during your turn. And then pay 3 generic, sacrifice it. Draw a card for each tap creature your opponent controls. What is my command to do this? This. So, the full set isn't out, and the commander decks aren't out. But I am so excited to play this card in Commander. I made a post earlier today where I said that this is the commander card of the set. This is like the best so far. This is the best commander card of the set. For a couple of reasons. One, just being able to tap down players' creatures, especially Voltron commanders that might be carrying a shitload of swords. Okay, I'm an artifact. I'll just tap it down. We're not doing that. Like the floor of just a 3-mana artifact that you can pay 1 to tap a creature is shockingly good. Being able to do that whenever you want, shockingly good to do. It being free on your turn is just the icing on the cake of being like, well, if I'm looking to push through damage on my turn, but that one thing is getting in the way, I could just do this for free. That's great. Factoring in multiplayer. If I'm in like position A and like the other 3 players have all taken their turns and they've taken game actions which includes attacking with creatures or tapping mana dorks. Like, sacrificing this card to draw 4 cards is not that far-fetched, right? Like, this is a thing that can happen. And the fact that if you want to cash it in for a bunch of cards, you at least get to cash it in for 1 additional card for free because it's your turn. I mean, you could sack it whenever you want, but you could sacking this on your turn. Like, the play pattern of, like, tap your creature for free, sack it to draw a bunch of cards. Because it's not target opponent controls. It's for each tap creature your opponents control. That's huge. This is just going to draw you so many cards. I'm so stoked to play this card in basically anything that is looking to grind out or control the board, even just a little bit. Or any, like, playing this in like red, or playing this in a color that doesn't draw cards super well. It's just great. Yeah, or sacking a response to an Alpha Strike and then draw the answer. Great card. Great card. I think that's it. Here, I'll put you back on screen. Let me see if there's any other cards that have been previewed that are worth discussing. I mean, there's a giant lady. There's a bunch of commons and uncommons. They're not super exciting because they're all limited cards. I don't even know. And like, also, I want to be careful. I don't want to share anything that has been leaked. We only talk about cards that have been officially previewed over on this stream. So yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it. What else do we want to do? Pie Wielder, Knight of Doves. What are your thoughts on the set so far, chat? This for Rats and Gladiator. Oh, the Witch. Yeah, I like the Witch. I mean, I like the Witch for limited. Here, I'll get the Witch up. It's also got a really good name.
His name's Wheeler.
Oh, thank you for the 100 bits, Commander Ed. I really gotta change the the text on there, because it's like, you didn't give me, I mean, look, very appreciative, but you didn't give me $100. not that I'm expecting it. But every time I look over, there's a sense of like, you know, like a breathe in, and then I'm like, oh, right. Not that I claim to. I know. I just don't want to sound ungrateful. Sounded like Jimmy Stewart there. We got this new card. Twisted Sewer Witch. 3 black for a 3/4 human warlock. When it ETBs, you make a 1/1 rat token that can't block. And then for each rat you control, you create a wicked roll token attached to that rat. Am I excited for card games on motorcycles? What do you mean? Card games on motorcycles. Did I miss some Yu-Gi-Oh news? I mean, this card's, it's 5 mana. It's not a rat itself. A Death Race set? Wait, we're getting a Death Race set? What? Like a Battle Bond set? I'm excited for Zoopels. I'm excited for Zodiac. In like 3 years. Oh, I mean, Kiefer loves Death Race. Getting a wacky races set. Okay. Cool. I'm excited. Look, let's get through this 1 year at a time. I'm excited for the Manor set. I'm excited for the Murders at Karlov Manor. I'm excited for the Thunder from Down Under. And I'm excited for the Bloomburrow. I'm most excited for Bloomburrow, like even more than the Cowboy set. And I am excited for the whatchamacallit? The haunted, what's the last one called? Duskmourn? I'm excited for Duskmourn too. Like all those sets look great. Modern Horizons 3 as well. I'm, a little cautious, but I'm excited. Yeah, I'm not excited for some of the other stuff. Universes Beyond. But you know what? That's fine. That's fine. It's good. It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of ooh. Oh, okay. Well. All right. Well. Okay. I don't know. I might call it there because I have some work that I can do. Some behind the scenes work that I could do. And I want to stream tomorrow. Also, we have guests. Bunch of stuff. Oh. Pigeon, welcome back for the 17th month. How you doing? What's up, y'all? Can't stay long. Just want to say, appreciate the content. Here's to 17 more months of Rat you. God, I hope so. So only 17 more months? All right, a pigeon said so. We only have Rat you for another 17 months. There is one thing I want to talk about again. I should do some diligence. Talk about it again. Next Saturday is the PPR. August 26th, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Twitch.tv/loading ready run. World first gameplay of sealed footage. Sealed gameplay. For Wilds of Eldraine. We have some special guests. We got Lady Livinius, Jumbo Commander, and WotC Senior Game Designer Chris Mooney coming in. Including a deck tech recording, including punt, counter punt, collector booster opening, all that jazz. So be sure to tune in. It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for tuning in. CardKingdom.com sponsored channel. Use CardKingdom.com/Wheeler to pick up cards by Union. Sheep and Wheeler Love Magic, new episode for Onslaught came out a couple of days ago. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and Onslaught means a lot to me. There's also a Patreon for Sheep and Wheeler Love Magic. I guess I have a Patreon as well. If you still want to support through the HelloFresh, there's another 3 days left on that. And Surfshark VPN sponsor the channel. You can use that link to pick it up. 3 extra months free plus 83% off when you use my link there. Okay, let me drop you kids off somewhere. I'm going to be streaming again tomorrow. We're probably not going to be doing any... Wow, Vox? Huh, okay. Interesting. I don't know what I'm streaming tomorrow. Maybe preview stuff, maybe Gladiator, maybe some deck building. I kind of like waiting for all the whole set to come out. There's a Hearthstone streamer I follow named Voxy. But she's playing Magic the Gathering. And, I think we should all be really... I know the struggle that comes with, playing a game that isn't your main game. So I think we should all go over to Voxy's channel and mention how neat it is and how cool it is that she's giving a new game a try. And be supportive that she's experimenting with this new game, Magic the Gathering. And I will see you tomorrow for more streaming. Okay, bye. I love you. Have a good one.